effect with Ogopogo.
Oh, and it looks like we're off, at least in some form. Uh, we see Marilyn diving in straight to Kaipo, and it looked like that was maybe a Sid in bed. I just saw kind of a blue helmet, so I'm not quite sure who that was. As Invenerable is pointing out in chat, that we're having a little bit of technical difficulty with the restream, and we'll get caught up as soon as we can. LSE and I will try and do what we can to keep you guys up to date on what's going on with what we can see.
Well, it looks like we do see some Cure 3s in Kaipo.
Thank you, Sir Zealous, for pointing out that Rydia is the second character. Go ahead, Alciel.
I was going to say, Rydia, not who you want to see this early with a Porum. You're hoping for somebody a little bit more punchy.
Yeah, we're definitely a little bit light on HP and offensive power for a little bit, but we do have the Hobbs flag turned on in this flag set in Free Enterprise, which does mean that they'll be able to go visit Mount Hobbs, and where Rydia learns Fire 1 in the vanilla game, we will get a and I imagine they'll probably be wanting to see Sylph or Titan out of that from the most. They won't be able to get anything like Bahamut or Leviathan, but they can definitely get something that helps them through the early game.
Very true. An early self-summon can do work in these seats.
Fleury is heading up Hobbs, finds a D-Mist and Rosa. And resets out because that's actually probably a little too powerful right now.
Rosa this early is very good to see, though. She does have some good offensive capabilities with her sword. Or, sorry, I'm looking at one screen. With her bow.
And we do have the objectives listed down on the bottom of the screen. Looks like the runners will have to conquer the vanilla Masamune altar, which means go fight Ogopogo's home spot. They'll have to launch the Falcon, so we'll need the hook. They'll have to find Yang and Edward. And then we'll have to find the package and watch Rydia's hometown get a little bit burned.
And we do see a mist summon from Hobbs.
That is a very misty mountain. And Penguinator in chat, who is our tracker again, letting us know that the Rubicant sprite was seen handing us our opening item, which means that's either Rubicant himself or it's the elements. Runners won't know.
It looks like Marilyn is going to give this fight a try. She does have a few J items.
Yeah, I think we might see Fleury do a little bit more shopping and looting to try and power up the team and maybe find a few more of those J items that the runners will be able to use to kind of mimic level 2 spells, and depending on which ones they get. But those won't really be available in shops. One of the things that 4.0 rebalanced was what items were available in shops and how much they cost. So we won't really see high-ticket attack items. Those charm arrows, about as good as arrows we'll see in shops today. That strength ring will be a nice find if we can get someone who can wear it, like that Yang that we have to pick up.
Well, and Marilyn is still trucking along in this fight, using the very rarely seen rod strats.
Yeah, but they are a nice way just to get some damage in. Demus gives you some nice recovery time, attacking 3 times and then turning it into mist form. So we definitely do have the ability to kind of outlast this fight as long as Rosa's MP and Porum's MP lasts to continue carrying.
And Jeebus in chat does point out there was a Sylph summon for sale in Silvera.
And it looks like Mist item shop also with illusions, silk webs, star veils, and exits. That's a pretty loaded shop. But man, those illusions are pricey now, 4,000 a pop.
Yes, much harder to stock up and then spam in the hard fight.
Yeah, I think we've definitely seen a resurgence of love for Porum and any white mage at all to be able to cast Blink and curative spells and Berserk with the rebalancing of shop. And Mist Dragon is down.
And we see Aurelia start to get the beginning of her tier 1 spells.
Yeah, unfortunately, she won't get tier 2 until they complete Dwarf Castle and grow her up. We did see I think a lightsaber and maybe a couple other things out of the currently available chests out of the Troy Treasury, and there's an Elven Bow, which Fleury is definitely happy to see.
Yes, barring a samurai or the really high-level bow that completely escapes me at this moment.
I think it's the
An elven bow. Yes, that one. Thank you. You definitely do like to see an early elven bow take advantage of those mage weaknesses.
Oh, and Fleury blocked by the Kaipo lady. Or not Kaipo lady, Troya lady. Yeah, that Elven Bow is going to be the best bow that they can find in overworld shops. So that's definitely good. And that mage weakness you mentioned, definitely excellent to fight Asura or the Magus Sisters. Both of our runners have picked up that dancing dagger out of a chest there. That would have been nice against D-Mist. Be able to use that instead of the rod and do about 300 points per item usage there.
We do see an Odin summon also in a chest. Now, if you were our runners, would you use that or sell it?
I would take that money and go buy something that's going to be a little more useful probably throughout the seed. Odin the accuracy suffers a little bit, and most of the enemies that our runners will fight have the boss bit, so they won't actually get any use out of it against most of our bosses, like that Lunar Sparkle that is the Lunar Dragons.
Well, one upside to having quite so many healers is they do have a weakness to holy spells, including cure spell.
Yeah, so this should be pretty straightforward for both our runners. And Gambit in chat asking if Marilyn had checked Rydia's mom, and she's not yet. She went straight from Mount Hobbs and picking up Rosa to Antlion, so hopefully she'll go and check and see what she gets, because we have no free key items or no free characters on in this flag set. So instead of getting a free key item from Edward, like you would get the Twin Harp in vanilla, you have to go find D-Mist and then go find Rydia's mom, who's sunbathing in Mist Village. in order to get that key item. That's a wonderful Stardust Rod.
Very true. Not only can that Stardust Rod be used to buff her magic power, but can be used as an item to cast the Comet spell.
Yeah, that's going to help Marilyn clear out a lot of the early game. Unfortunately, it's also going to help Flurry, and Flurry will probably clear Demist noticeably faster than Marilyn has. But it's not time wasted because Marilyn is still ahead on check. Where do you lean, Elisiel, on the checking stuff early or looting and chopping until you feel ready? Do you like to go a little bit early?
I think I like to take a look at whoever's on Hobbs, whatever character and boss, and then I use that to decide how bad the seed might be.
Yeah, that's true. If you get, say, Edward Rydia, you need definitely a little more help than you would if you had a Kane and Sid start.
And we have the Alt Gauntlet in its vanilla location.
Really, you love to see it. This is another one of the flags in 4.0 that has been added, and that Stardust Rod is going to come in so handy here, clearing this out much, much faster. But the Gauntlet, if you turn on the alternate Gauntlet flag, now pulls 5 encounters from the surrounding area. So you'd get a different encounter here than you would if it was one of the Baron Inn fights, or if it was on Hobbs or anywhere in the game. So it can be really mean later. And it's a nice way to get some XP because you usually get a little bit more out of this.
Very true, although it is quite trolly to see it in a low-level location or low HP location such as the Tower Key location or top of Mount Ordeal.
Yeah, the Tower Key I think is one of my least favorite ones because it takes so much longer than that fight normally. Ordeals, at least, because it's a vanilla encounter entirely, you do get experience points out of fights with this alternate gauntlet, even in places where Free Enterprise normally wouldn't let you.
And one of my favorite aspects of the Alt Gauntlet is you get to see enemies that you don't always get to see in playing Free Enterprise.
Yeah, I think it had been probably 15 years since I had seen a Sword Rat until these came out. And we see Flurry making short work of that Demist with the help of the Stardust Rod and going immediately to check.
And it is a required package.
Well, that is very convenient.
And we see a Dark Knight Cecil in the package location.
Ooh, that is interesting. Flurry did get a light sword out of the Troya Treasury. I don't know if he sold it. That might tempt me to actually go through all this cutscene, even though we don't have to find any bosses in specific.
And Marilyn, heading straight to Ordeals, hopefully hasn't forgotten about that Ready a Mom spot.
Yeah, it's definitely something that can slip your mind once you've 'cause you got Rosa and you're like, excellent, I can go now do Antlion Cave, and you're just continuing your normal route around the overworld, and it's very, very easy to forget that you have actually an extra check that you found.
I think we've all, at one point or another, forgotten about the Ready a Mom spot after Miss Dragon.
And Fleury, not even trusting his team, as low level as this boss spot is, takes a quick safety save right outside of the town, out of Kaipo. And there we have Dark Knight Cecil, otherwise known as Pain Man, in the Vanilla Mylon spot.
And we see a Lolbez in the Kaipo Inn.
Excellent. Just needed to make this cutscene a little bit longer. This spot where Marilyn has found Dark Knight Cecil is one of the lowest attack power spots you can find him. See, he was only doing about 10 to 15 damage per Dark Wave. Very easy just to tank and wait out for pretty much any character at all.
Very true. There are spots you definitely do not want to see him in, so getting him out of the way early and in such a low attack power spot is very nice.
Yeah, that has to feel very good, especially with this team, to have that out of the way and not a concern. The Shadow Dragon does Fleury a little bit of a favor. Fleury did get a Star Veil up on Rosa before the dragon came out, and the dragon did not eat Rosa, so very happy day for Fleury. We'll see one big bomb, and Golbez will probably disappear.
Now, speaking of bosses you don't want to see with such a low-level team with not a whole lot of firepower, Antlion on the second spot and Mount Ordeal.
Yeah, that's going to hurt, especially with how Antlion counters any physical attacks. Pretty much the fight command with a counter spell or counter attack. This would be a good time for Marilyn to use the aim command for Rosa, which will bypass that counter.
And Marilyn taking this fight a lot more conservatively, casting slow and using that aim command and Stardust Rock.
Yeah, I think the reset out was the right choice here and has definitely altered strats as necessary to get through this fight pretty cleanly. And as Jeeves is pointing out in chat, the aim command, if Rose is in the center spot, because the center character gets an accuracy boost just from being there, you can actually overflow the aim command, causing Rosa to miss some attacks, which you don't want to do. So it was an excellent choice to move Rosa from the middle where she had been in the first attempt.
And Fleury, now knowing that they have that Dark Knight Cecil, immediately heading to Ordeals to turn him into a paladin.
Yeah, and Fleury's still looking for his underground access too, and it looks like we had started with the pan. So I think Fleury is trying to avoid going into Fabul at all until they've gotten underground, he's gotten underground, and is able to do one entire trip and clean Fabul out all at once.
It does look like that strategy is going to bite him, though, because unless this is the hook, Magma Key was available past that Alt Gauntlet.
Yeah, I imagine that we'll see him go to Baron Inn next, and then we'll have to resign himself to Fabul. Unless, oh, there's a hook. Delightful. At least for chat. That is some bad news for Fleury, but I imagine he won't actually want to take that hook route.
Very true. If I got a hook with this team, I would definitely be searching every other available location.
Baka pointing out that we do need to launch the Falcon, so Fleury might just run with that. It's going to be an interesting choice and an interesting decision. We'll see what happens. Still think I'd rather get a little bit higher powered team together before I go that route if I had any options.
And we are finished with Mount Ordeals on Maryland's side.
Yeah, let's hope she remembers to go check Rydia's mom in Mist Village and completes one of her objectives.
Looks like she is going to do a little bit of shopping percent and find some items that would have been very, very helpful up on the mountain. And Gambit in chat is pointing out if he does find a Valvalus or a Wyvern in that hook location, we'll let him know that the Magma Key is in play on the overworld.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. There are some safety checks turned on in order to make you not have to go through some exceedingly rude bosses in order to get underground. There are still an awful lot of rudeness, as we saw in one of the earlier matches where Odin gated the underground access. And that was pretty rude to our runners, who also didn't have a terribly strong party.
Very true. An Odin, a Kegnazo, or an Ogopogo can definitely really shut down your run very quick.
For the first 25 minutes, these runners are pretty much neck and neck. Maryland has, again, made that extra check and gotten the Magma Key out of Fabul. Fleury looks like he's trying to avoid Fabul, so we'll see what happens when he once he gets this hook and gets off Mount Ordeals. And it's possible seeing the All Gauntlet there in Fabul will make him just not want to do it anyway, too, if he does check it initially. That's the kind of thing that you reset out of if you feel maybe that you want to save time or feel like you want to try and avoid just sinking any time or effort into that fight.
But both of our runners using the Stardust Rod to great effect early.
Yeah, it's definitely something I'm sure they were both happy to see, especially with that Rydia in their party.
And Fleury does head straight to Baron Inn to go see who our 5th character is, and it is Atella.
And since you've already done our deals, when they get Tella, he will have his full spell list. That'll be very nice. And this is not a bad spot for Evil Wall.
But this is not where you'd like to see Val.
It's not the best spot, but it is one of the ones where she is hittable by magic. So that Stardust Rod will continue to do excellent work. Had the Valvilla spin in the first spot, the Stardust Rod would actually probably be doing nothing at all.
Quite true. I always get those two spots mixed up and would think that the easier spot would have the easier Valvilla.
Yeah, that Baron Guard's vanilla spot actually has a surprising amount of magic defense. Fleury using Cecil's cover to good effect to make sure that Rydia stays up, and continues using that Stardust Rod.
And Marilyn immediately heading to her, to Agart to use her key to get into the underground.
And Fleury is through and gets a nice Bahamut summon.
So right now, our Rydia is loaded for bear.
She is, and Fleury's got a lot of firepower on his team. That hook route is very possible and could be tempting. But Fleury is not content and does indeed head to Fabul.
May just not have faith enough in Tella and his team to get him through that hook.
It is sometimes hard to have enough faith in Tella, who can miss life spells fairly frequently.
This is true. I don't put much faith in Tella. And Marilyn heading straight down to the Feymerch will probably be looking at her free key item down here.
Yeah, doing a little bit of looting. Just looks like the immediate checks along the way to maybe pick up a couple of better items. It seemed that she had yet to go to the Troya Treasury rooms to pick up that lightsaber that Fleury has, but she did have a dwarf axe in order to back row glitch Cecil.
And does find a nice money hat down in the Feymerch.
Yeah, especially with already having Dragoon armor on that Cecil, doesn't need the properties of the Crystal Helm to reduce damage from elemental damage, so can probably sell it pretty freely. We do see a Moon Veil out of that chest. That's a very nice pickup because you don't find those in shops a lot anymore.
And that Moon Veil can definitely trivialize any physical fight, especially at these high-level locations.
Yeah, it can definitely take, say, Pale Dim from being very obnoxious and difficult to deal with to very, very free, if a little bit slow. And that Hourglass 2 will also come in handy if we find some of our free bosses.
Unfortunately, neither of these bosses in the underground cheesable with that moon veil.
Yeah, Mound Bomb is somewhat, but the Explode will still go through it. And Atsura, you still need to deal with her healing herself, so while the Moon Veil could be used along with cover strats to protect you from her counterattacks, you still have to make sure that she can't heal herself. And Fleury is through the Alt Gauntlet that Fabul has successfully defended and gotten the Magma Key. Imagine we'll see him heading underground pretty much immediately, following Maryland's steps.
And the Sylph's only giving us a heroine robe, but with so many ladies in our party, can be used to great effect to make one of them into a bruiser.
Yeah, I definitely would like that as Maryland because I don't have the good sword for Paladin Cecil, so that'll make that Rose a much better archer.
And it looks like we did pick up a siren somewhere in the overworld, and looks like we're going to get a little mini grind on our character.
Yeah, using that Hourglass 2 to kind of to stop this egg from transforming into a dragon, as it does if you don't kill it in one shot. But since it stopped, it really can't do anything and just accepts all of the love you're giving it. A successfully scrambled egg and 34,000 experience.
And we see Berserk on our Rosa and 21 casual levels on our Cecil.
Yeah, that is definitely going to help out. I wonder if Maryland is now going to either go do Baron Inn or maybe go check the Hook character and do the Hook route very fast. And almost seeing in chat pointing out one of the quality of life enhancements that Boardface, the creator for Enterprise, has made, where all of the levels that you gain in a fight are actually condensed into one nice message. The spells you get, you still see individually, but we didn't have to see Cecil gain to level 21 times.
And anyone who has run or watched a vanilla speed run will know exactly what that looks like. And Fleury going to turn in his checks at the Sheila.
Yeah, giving us our first look at what Sheila will give us for visiting Yang and tapping him on the head with the pan. We get a fetch quest and a fetch quest.
But we get the best fetch quest.
Indeed. Let's hope Fleury immediately goes to do the twin harp, but I imagine the rat tail's probably first on his mind. That does push our runners a little bit closer to 10 key items, which is a valuable amount of key items to have because that will double all experience that our runners get.
Fleury is heading to go validate his seed.
That's a French vanilla job dwarf.
Yes, because all the farming you do down in the underground.
Well, since he is a farmer normally, he's, I guess, been demoted to just being a farm hand. Maybe he had a bad harvest of lava.
And we have Marilyn heading to the dwarf castle and find sirens for sale.
Ooh, that would be very nice. Entirely possible that they won't have to do any significant grinding, maybe in the giant, or really have to worry about the grind if they can just afford the 4,000 per siren. And she caught herself right before almost selling that moon veil. That would have been possibly very bad.
And we see a lunar sparkle as our first boss down here.
And we have Plague and a very quick Star Veil, so this will be a pretty easy fight.
This is one of my favorite strats, where you don't even have to worry about picking your characters back up or killing them first.
Yeah, there are a number of good ways to deal with Plague. Bahamut definitely seems like it is going to do excellent work here at that hot 7,000 damage. And Plague is weak to arrows and other things that fly, and spears as well. So Rosa doing 1,200 damage as well, taking out Plague. We see Fleury doing his own mini egg grind.
And we see a second lunar sparkle and a required Edward.
Who then immediately goes to sit on the bench. And this is a wonderful spot to see Ogopogo. There's only about 3,000 hit points here, so it's going to be pretty straightforward and quick to deal with this very, very mean moon boss.
And this Bahamut should take him out without getting the counter blaze.
Yeah, which would have done about 20% of the maximum hit points of the characters as a counter attack, which after the initial 50% that the two big waves that Ogopogo does to you would have been kind of obnoxious.
And we see a defense sword as our reward. While not a key item, will be very, very nice for that sus.
Yeah, Marilyn, I'm sure, will be exceedingly happy to see that, being able to upgrade Cecil from a Dwarf Axe. Flurry will be a little bit less so, uh, since Flurry already had a light sword, but we'll probably still be pretty happy because that will up Cecil's defense too, and make him good at cover strats if Flurry decides to go deal with any of those bosses in the Fey March. And Marilyn really does not want to deal with either of those Fey March bosses as she's going up the tower without the tower key. And I don't think she's actually gone to visit Sheila yet, so this is maybe a little bit of a bit of nerves, forgetting that once you've hit Yang with a pan, that you could then go and turn in, go visit Sheila and get 2 other free item checks.
Chat does point out she can get an idea of what is guarding the lower Babel.
Yeah, that is a very excellent point. I'm so used to doing it the other way and coming down the hook route to see what's at the top of Lower Babel that I almost never think about trying to see who's at the guarding the entrance to the underground from the hook route.
And it is a lunar sparkle, which means it is either Wyvern or Pale Dim.
Our runners have done a good job just dismissing Lunar Sparkle after Lunar Sparkle so far this seed. And after dismissing Ogopogo earlier in Dwarf Castle, we're now faced with Leviathan, who is not quite as mean, and only does a quarter of damage with that wave, and will do some occasional Ice 2s. But this should be pretty straightforward.
Well, when you're having the King of the Summons attacked by the Lord of the Summon, this summon-on-summon violence just has to stop.
I think it will in Maryland's favor.
And Tella even doing work in this fight with that 3000 Lit 3.
Yeah, taking good advantage of Leviathan's weakness to lightning. And boss down, 26,000 experience gained, and soon we'll see our item.
And just a sword for an edge we don't have.
But an edge that could be hiding at the hook route. And it looks like Maryland decides to take a reset and not really bother walking out of the tower with that. I'm not entirely surprised. Flurry finding value out of the rat tail, though. That darkness crystal opens up the rest of the game pretty much. We're just missing the Luca key, the Earth crystal, and the Baron key in order to get access to everywhere else.
And Marilyn does remember her Sheila checks.
doing a nice job of thinking about what happens if Sheila doesn't actually give you anything that you want to keep, and dropping a save right outside of Fabul, so she could reset. We know that she's definitely going to walk these items out.
Might feel a little bit bad about moving that hovercraft to the Eblin Cave, but...
True, but she will have to go do the hook route anyway, so we'll perhaps just go do that first and then come back. And once through the underground and back up, we'll grab the hovercraft back and move it to get the darkness crystal. Ooh, looks like we're gonna get a music check right away.
Marilyn, the People's Champion, is going to let us know what our harp song is tonight.
Ooh, and Fleury finds an edge that, if he does that tower, will be very happy. Edge, of course, not the martial artist we actually need to complete the seed, though. Fleury deciding that Porm has done enough work today, getting him through the early game, and replaces her with Edge.
Well, it's about her nap time, so lets her head on out.
Ooh, and Tella does get the virus off in time, so we don't have to sit through Dark Elf casting a bunch of spells at us. That's an excellent time save for Marilyn.
And we're going to be a little quiet, and we're going to see what this is.
That was a good, jaunty battle tune.
And we find a Luca key for our troubles.
And meanwhile, while we saw Dark Elf change into Odin, Fleury's fighting the real Dark Elf at the King Queen Evelyn spot. and taking advantage of the fact that the dragon form of Dark Elf does not have the ball spit, and so is susceptible to spells like Weak and Stop, like that Stop is cast by the Hourglass.
And Marilyn does decide to check that rat tail before heading down into Eblin.
That gets her ticket to the moon. Fleury is through the Dark Elf with the pig in his party, and we'll go back and save before finding out who that Lunar Sparkle is guarding the Falcon.
Marilyn decides to launch her lunar whale, while Fleury finds Pale Dim and probably breathes a big sigh of relief.
Yeah, all the slow counters that Pale Dim will do will be a little bit annoying and just take some time, but this shouldn't be too difficult of a fight, I don't think. In the very worst case, we have the Moon Veil, but Cecil covering people. And Cecil, I think, has some crystal gear on, so he's probably going to be pretty well protected against all this.
Marilyn does head up to the moon, possibly to just check the lunar dais, or may try to do a grind up.
We see Fleury displaying some excellent bit of game knowledge, casting Float on his party before summoning Bahamut. A lot of the moon bosses don't appreciate it when you cast summons at them, and Pale Dim will counter with a Quake. Gambit letting us know that we had hourglasses on the moon, so combined with those sirens, we definitely have a very free and easy grind that doesn't require you to do D machines.
And we see a Quake kit on the moon.
And since we don't really need weak, Tella gets to go home and take a nap too.
And chat is trying to decide the trolliest place for a Yang to be found.
Yeah, normally Package is one of the trollier spots since you have to sit through the cutscene, but looks like Giant is going to be the trolliest possible place for us, and Fleury is through Pale Dim. While Marilyn makes a dive, probably for the Masamune, or looks like she's going to the Murasame altar, trying to get maybe some levels. Yeah, summoning some gold dragons here.
And should be getting a very nice slingshot on her Palom.
And Fleury has completed his third objective and is launching the Falcon.
And we get a casual 90,000 experience. And 24 levels for our Quake Kid.
Yeah, being at level 34 is pretty good. We'll have Quake and maybe some of the first level 3 spells. Yeah, looks like it's all of them. Fleury decides he's done with Earth, doesn't want to deal with the keyless tower check, leaving behind what he doesn't know is a Masamune for his edge.
And Marilyn is able to take down a second batch of gold dragons. And we'll probably bring characters up into the mid-30s to early 40s.
Yeah, that is a good call on the experience gains. Porm getting Cure 3, definitely being able to be a pretty viable healer at this point. Looks like Rose's archery duties might be done with, I'm not sure. Oh, and is now taking on the Murasame altar. Hopefully Marilyn hasn't quite flipped the altars, because the one the runners need is the Masamune down at the bottom of Lunar Subterranean. Ooh, and this is a gross boss here.
And does not have the necessary MP to summon Bahamut.
It's possible that Rosa can get a Cure 3 off in time, and Cecil can do enough damage. This is not going to be a wipe. The Kanatsu does do 4% of Kanatsu's current HP in each of those waves. So if that Berserk Cecil can really get off enough damage, this is totally salvageable. But Rose is going to need a little more HP, I think. And unfortunately, I don't think that Marilyn had saved right before doing this. So there's a really painful time loss.
Yes, that is very regrettable. And on Fleury's side, he did not decide to take our Quake Kid and holds on to his Tella.
Yeah, I imagine Fleury is looking ahead toward the Zeromus fight already and is going to be using that Tella as an anchor. I'm not sure, I didn't catch whether to see if Fleury had checked the shop or not, and knows that there are hourglasses there.
It looks like both our runners are heading down to the lower lunar subterrane.
Yeah, well, we might see Marilyn do a regrind and then save before going on to do any of the boss spots down. That wipe does put her a little bit probably behind Fleury at this point. I think they had been neck and neck for all they had done different options uh, and done different parts of the seed, because she'll definitely cruise through the hook route a little bit faster than Fleury did, just by virtue of having higher levels when she goes to do it. Ralphian's pointing out that there are some free bosses available. I think both of the guards fights are still out in the pool, and the Dark Imps as well.
Very true. A free boss at the D-Lunar spot can give a ton of experience.
Yeah, and Fleury did pick up hourglasses, so both of our runners are probably gonna sit here and grind on dragons for a little while until they feel comfortable going on taking some more of the boss spots here in the Lunar Subterranean.
And as Woobeer points out in chat, it is always bittersweet to get those dolls at the D-Lunar spot, as you do not get full XP unless you have a very, very poor fight.
Yeah, well, it is possible to get really an unlimited amount of XP by getting all the killing all but one of the dolls, letting the big doll summon, getting the big doll down to the HP to where they split back apart. That's an awful long time to do, and otherwise you just don't get full credit for the entire fight.
And we do see an Octomammoth at this spot. This is one of those fights that a Moonveil can cheat.
Yeah, absolutely. But each time, it'll take 3 times for the first tentacle to go away, and then 2 attacks after that. So once Marilyn kind of weathers the first attacks at this very, very high attack spot, then it kind of becomes manageable, and I think she'll be able to succeed here.
And to answer our lovely Scala Kitty in chat, we did hear the music on Marilyn's side.
And we have a CPU, a required CPU at the Masamune altar. That Fleury does not want to deal with quite yet, because that fight is obnoxious.
At that point, I think I would leave that to the very last check and then just walk down to Zeromus afterward.
Yeah, that is not a bad thing to think about, especially since the runners don't have the pass yet. It'll definitely be something that Fleury does after this Lugae Balnab fight. Gets a little more XP and a little more damage to make that fight a little more manageable and faster. And Gambit in chat pointing out that this is another one of the split XP fights, so runners won't get the full 100,000 that's available at this spot. Yeah, Marilyn has blinked up quite well and looks like we'll be cleaning out this Octomam, and does indeed get through that fight. That was excellent work.
And gets a crystal sword for her troubles. I would not sneeze at that.
No, that's worth the time, I think. That's definitely going to speed up all the rest of her run. Cecil with true ultimate power now. Ooh, and Fleury's gotten to the Belknap Z portion of the fight. Has managed to kill one of the two. Managed to kill the robot without killing the doctor. So the doctor will take control and will eventually explode if is not killed fast enough, which he does get done.
Marilyn will probably have a much easier time with this fight with a Crystal Sword Cecil Berserk.
And Marilyn doing a good job of menuing during all the talking that Luge does. Doctor Dialogue is a phrase I've heard a few times from other runners of the game when they talk about this fight. Dr. Lugi doing a little bit of pew-pew work on Edge and Rosa. Definitely making this a lot more of a fight than the first half.
I did not know that beam could be reflected.
Yeah, it is a handy little trick. I believe even the laser can too, and that laser does a percentage of Lugi's current HP. And Fleur is rewarded with the Excalibur starter kit. And I believe that does also put him to 10 key items. Or maybe he'll just be at 9. Looks like just 9, because Marilyn has the advantage of having done the Twin Harp to get the Luca key.
We'll probably feel a little bad after finishing the Plague Spot and getting the Crystal Armor, or Crystal Sword.
Not sure if I'd feel bad so much as happy that I don't have to go to the Underground to get a sword upgrade. Oh, and bypasses it.
But that does open up the coal shop, which can have some very, very nice items available.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope these runners still have money left over after buying all the sirens and hourglasses, because you can definitely get some top tier gear. I believe tier 6 in the new rebalancing from that shop, which is definitely some spicy stuff. Gambit asking if people will turn it in. I think that Fleury might, if Fleury does not actually go do that Plague Spot. But Marilyn, I kind of doubt would, because it's probably not worth it for her. What do you think, Alciel?
I know that in some of the earlier races I've seen, they've had white shirts, life staffs. She may want to go ahead and turn that in since her healers are rocking default gear.
Looks like Marilyn taking a little bit of a risk here and berserking Cecil, where Fleury is taking a little more conventional approach and getting rid of the defender before going straight to the attacker. And we'll see why it's a little bit risky in just a second here when the Globe 199s come out.
Oh, and Rosa is out of arrows, so we have Punchy Rosa.
Well, this will be one of the few times that you'd be very happy to see Globe 199 take out Rosa. CPU not happy with either of our back row girls. Takes them both out. But Cecil's been doing an awful lot of damage with that Crystal Sword and gets through the fight before Fleury. That's some nice work. Crystal Sword Cecil is very, very strong.
And gets a tower key for her troubles.
And what a great way to pick up time.
Now at this point, what is your next play? Do you head down and go back and clear out the underworld? Or do you do the rest of these required fights up?
Well, we got rid of our required fight. I might want to chase that Luca key that we got from the Twin Harp. That's a check that people aren't often going to do, and you kind of want to follow that up and see what that is and maybe get an Earth Crystal out of that. I'd also probably want to follow that tower key too. I might leave a save right here and then go jet down to Earth and see what I can find. Because we do still need to do the, or Maryland still needs to launch the Falcon. But it's a very, very hard call.
But this is a very nice fight to see in this spot.
Yeah, very low magic power because this is Wyvern's normal home, and the game doesn't try to overwhelm you with Mega Nuke power. The attacks from Cindy will hurt a little bit because the attack power here is pretty strong. But overall, this will probably be pretty straightforward.
And I think some Bahamut will probably take out these ladies. And there we go.
Indeed, and it looked like while we were watching Maryland's screen a little bit more closely, Fleury did get the float trick off on the attacker, where if you wall one of your party members and then cast float, you can possibly reflect that float onto the attacker and then just quake underneath. Oh, and a spicy Earth Crystal. That gives me even more desire to want to go to the Earth. Yeah, I gotta check those two characters as fast as possible, I think.
Very true, because that just leaves launching the Falcon and getting Yang, and if he is there at the Zot Tower, you are in go.
Yeah, Blaze asking if we know that Yang isn't at the Sand Ruby. I know I saw a blue helmet. I think it's Kane or Sid there, since we already had Cecil. But the check went by pretty fast on other runners' screens, but it did not look like Yang's head. And Wu Bear wishing pain and suffering on our runners and still calling the giant.
And Marilyn heads immediately to the Tower of Zot.
Doing a good job of avoiding the Troy Treasury, which in this flag set, when we're on T standard, just has normal tier gear. But if when we get to the bracket stage, that Troy Treasury is going to be a very, very good spot to where they can pick up tier 6 or even tier 7 gear out of that. We'll definitely see runners beeline there more often when we get to the bracket stage.
Exactly, just a casual life staff and some very, very nice armor and gear for our bruisers out of there.
Fleury might be a little disheartened when he gets out of here and sees the crystal sword he could have had for that CPU fight. But Fleury is doing a very good job of managing the damage here and just going to get through it.
Oh, and Marilyn finds our last lunar sparkle, who is Wyvern.
Hi, Wyvern. But Rosa gets a Star Veil off. This is now done. Yeah, this is not a terribly fast spot, and since Quake Kid is in the middle and has a bunch of levels, the party is definitely faster than Wyvern. Fleury is through Octomam and is rewarded with his Crystal Sword. His SL is now fully online. Rosa doing all the hard work of getting Marilyn's party back up.
Oh no, but as chat points out, their Cecil is berserk broke.
Yeah, that's a little unfortunate to see. I think Quake Kid will now finish this fight off though, so it won't be too bad. Beowulf in chat asking if we can explain. There's a little bit of a glitch with the berserk status that if you berserk someone as they come alive, I believe before they get their first turn popped up, they kind of get stuck. It's a way that the 1.1 ROM fixes the mimic glitch that's used in the vanilla speedrun. And there's a vanilla cane. And yes, Rumblefish, who's asking if you could reset the character out of the glitch by killing them. You certainly could. And there is our Yang.
So music not required the seed, but Marilyn knows all she has to do is get down to the underground and launch the Falcon.
Yeah, and then hightail it back up to the moon, and unless we get a pass out of this, hightail it back up to the moon and take that long walk down to the lunar subterrane. Probably very nervous, like both runners would be, because I know as soon as I get done with all the objectives, I wonder why the other person isn't done already. And this is a very, very close race.
Ouch.
Yes, Yang is a little bit mad that he got sent to the bench and decides to come back and kick our party. But Marilyn takes advantage of the vanilla script, and after 2 kicks, Yang will automatically die if Cecil pops him. Fleury also sees a deal too good to pass up when he gets the Earth Crystal, and immediately exits, leaves a save at the top of the moon, and is probably going to go straight to Zot. It's been a little while since I paid attention very close to their levels. Do you think that they're ready for Zroma Celestial, or do you think they'll both have to do a little bit more grinding?
Well, with Marilyn having both the twins who do not have the best HP growth, she may opt to do a little more grinding to get them up to where they can survive.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And she does find some Bacchus wine there in the shop. So that Cecil will be able to self-berserk, which is definitely a nice bonus. Leaving your white mages a little bit more time to get heals or white spells off.
And as Chad is pointing out, unfortunately, Marilyn does not have a good anchor for this fight, and most of her DPS does come from characters who will not be able to put out quite as much as they'd like during the fight.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if maybe she goes and takes advantage of the Tower of Witches and rescues that Tella to use as an anchor, or if she's manages to get Cecil to level 45, where Cecil has a natural 28 agility, which is one of the breakpoints. The first breakpoint where Zeromus is not relative agility 1, to kind of slow Zeromus down and relatively speed up your party. Fleury also manages to get a Star Veil off in front of Wyvern, so should be able to get this fight also under control, as Rozo will again do a lot of life duty, picking everybody back up off the floor.
And Mechaling pointing out that Cecil is exactly at 45 right at this point.
Seven 1001 asking in chat if Edge would have been close to 28, and that's true, but I wouldn't have, probably don't think I would ditch any of the characters at this point for Edge. If you're able to get Cecil at 28 agility, it's probably worth it to keep him. He'll do a lot more damage, and then your other characters you could maybe get some extra levels on so that they get their top tier spells to really help out as he fight.
With that crystal sword, Cecil is going to do work in this fight.
Yeah, taking excellent advantage of that weakness the Dark Elf has to holy weapons.
And Fleury does have the crystal and is in go mode.
Ooh, Fleury ditching Iridia to Duck Yang. I think that means Fleury's going to do a little bit more grinding. Unless Tella has gotten too many levels to be a good anchor for him.
And also ditches that Stardust Rod.
Yeah, it won't take Yang too long to catch up, since Fleury does have 10 key items at this point, and only 1 or 2 dragon fights will probably get him all the way there. What sort of Zeroma strategies are your favorites to employ, Alaciel?
The one where I don't die, preferably bruiser strats. I don't do well with the hybrid or pure reflex.
Yeah, those are a little bit finickier, and you need to get some higher levels. So if you're able to get those levels naturally, it can definitely pay off. But bruisers are very good for not making you die. Both runners have a little bit of a cutscene before they actually get control of the characters again. Fleury is now officially in go mode and is getting into his airship.
And maybe deciding to head back to Eblin Cave to get some more Bacchus wine.
I think you're exactly right. With all those bruisers on the team, I think they're going to be drinking and punching.
Does buy a stack of coffins as well, so maybe looking for a few more levels.
Yeah, maybe you might be looking to do the Warlock grind. They're coffinable. Kind of curious about the buying of coffins there, actually. Chat pointing out that it is very likely to be a miss menu, and both of our runners getting into the whale at roughly the same time to go back up to the moon. This is so close. This is really going to come down to as soon as whoever is able to feel comfortable going to the grind and gets their Z fight off first, I think.
And this is a nail biter tonight, with Fleury only about 5 to 10 seconds ahead of Marilyn.
Yeah, I bet both runners' hands are sweating on the controller right now. Not sure where the other runner is, and wondering exactly when they're going to be comfortable going to Zeromus themselves, and maybe goes a little bit sooner than they normally would feel comfortable.
And Fleury does make a wrong turn in the lunar subterrane, letting Marilyn pull ahead.
It's not often you see driving mistakes cost you some time, but there it is.
But Marilyn does decide to take a fight, but so does Fleury.
Yeah, Fleury definitely was going to, since he was keeping Yang and Tella. And Marilyn looks like she's not too worried about her Cecil agility since she berserked.
Well, and Marilyn only has the one siren, so this is it for her.
Looks like she might be just letting Quackhead be her anchor at whatever agility he is right now, since Quackhead did go down and was not revived. Looks like we might just be seeing the one true couple pull out this Zeromus fight for Marilyn.
And to answer a question in chat, we have not seen a cursed ring in this run.
Now, this is a very gutsy play from Marilyn. I really like it, and I hope it pays off for her. Baka in chat asking if Rosa has anything good. It looked like she just has an elven bow with no arrows and an iron ring. Not a lot of defense on that. Rosa might be looking for a lot of nerfs in order to get through this.
And as our runners enter the lowest level of the lunar subterrane, we do have a question we like to ask in this community. Would you like to do the honors, Antidale?
Absolutely, I will take that. Chat, whose butt are we going to kick tonight, this Saturday night, on day 6 of the Fabul Gauntlet? Do you have a favorite Z-Sprite you're looking forward to?
My favorite is always Clippiness. How about you?
I think I like either Where's Waldo or the Enterprise. It's always kind of fun to see those fun, happy sprites. But Clippy definitely would be fun to take down.
And we see the crystal go out.
And Astrosmith looks like a little Final Fantasy 1.
I suppose it does make sense, seeing as we are here on Randomania 2. Or 1. We're on 1 today.
Ooh, and Cecil takes that counter nuke directly to the face, but is still there, and Form's able to get a cure off very soon. This is going to be an interesting Z fight. We'll see if the extra time that Maryland has started a little bit before Fleury is going to make up for the difference of Fleury having 4 bruising attackers, or at least 3 in a Rosa, since I believe Fleury took the heroin robe off of his Rosa.
It looks like we're going to see some virus reflex strats tonight.
Ooh, it doesn't look like Maryland's planning to nerf this Big Bang. This could be bad. We'll see. Alright, Rosa lives. That's good enough.
Now it is just down to a Crystal Sword Cecil for our damage on Maryland's side.
Yeah, chat pointing out this is all you actually need to beat Zeromus, but it's definitely a little bit risky, and it's a little bit slower than Fleury with just the extra damage Fleury's got going on. Rosa survives another Big Bang.
And that Cure 3 does come out before the next Big Bang. And Rosa survives another Big Bang, but it is very, very dicey.
And Fleury's got rocks. So I think Fleury has this at this point. And there is the flash. GG's to Fleury.
Very well done by Fleury.
Looks like Fleury with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 38 minutes, and 34 seconds, taking first place in this 1v1 and getting a 1-0 record in the Fabul Gauntlet. And we'll see if he is wanting to come in and have an interview. GG's, Fleury.
Thank you.
So we saw you buy some coffins there. Was that a little bit just of a mismenu?
Twice. I did it twice. That was the funny part, was that I did it the first time into the cave, and then I did it when I went to go the second time to actually fill up on Buck. I was like, well, man, if I can use a coffin on Zermus, I'd be totally good.
Oh, that'd make the game a lot different.
Yeah. Let's see. So this seed, one of my biggest pet peeves of any seed happened here, and that is when you start with a team with next to no offensive firepower, and you spend plenty of extra time looting places you don't normally loot, and going to shops you don't usually go to shop, and running your money supply really low. Then you finally find what it is that you want after like 6 minutes of shopping, and you go into Antlion Cave, and that very first chest has a dancing dagger. Get out of town.
Yeah, we saw that. And then later you get a Stardust Rod just to make it a little bit more powerful.
I was so upset. So
and we do have rocks falling on Maryland's side. Looks like the power couple of Rosa and Cecil's gonna pull through.
Nice. So yeah, that got me a little tilted. I was glad, like, coming into these races, that I had the idea of put off a bull if you can, unless it's a hook seed. And then seeing the gauntlet, and I was like, oh, I've reset out of this before. So that probably saved me quite a bit of time. Other than that, like, there were a couple of fights that went a little longer than I would have liked. But I feel like the seed was, I don't want to say it was too linear, but the biggest traps there would have been if you did harp and whatever harp related activities came from that. If you did the summon monsters fight, and I don't think anybody really wants to do Mom Bomb Leviathan at any point in time. If Vanilla, sure, it would have been doable if I would have grinded to wall and that I could have just, Bahamutted her down, but that would have taken like 5-6 minutes. I didn't think that was worth the time. So that kind of tells you to go Moon. Maybe demachining might have made sense, but I figured Sirens and Hourglasses and having a Black Mage with Ice 2 so I could get a double life on them, that it's okay going in there. CPU I kind of put off to the last minute, but otherwise, like, I feel like it went well. Just I feel like I gave away about 5 minutes in the early game.
Yeah, it was actually really close between the two of you, each doing a little bit of different things. She went directly up the Hobbs and fought that Mist Dragon first. while you were doing all your shopping.
Yeah. If you get past Hobbs at that point, I think you don't even need to do a whole lot of shopping. But yeah, that like seeing Mist early is always really nice.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get Marilyn in here also to finish, since you two finished very close together, with her with a 142. Oh,
Yeah, that was a pretty close race. One of the interesting decisions I think that seed had to offer was that you're still missing. Let's see, your new package was Sid. You were still missing Baron Key and Earth Crystal. So that was 3 characters, but the Giant was kind of sitting there. And, given who was on the crew today, I kind of figured maybe an early Giant plays in the cards. But not having a really good damage engine kind of made me not want to do that. If Moon had been indeed haunted, after getting the Crystal Sword, I probably would have done Giant next. Fortunately, that didn't have to happen.
yeah, chat was definitely rooting for a Giant for both of you to go do.
Well, mostly Woo Bear was voting for Giant for you to go do.
Well, that's fair. I mean, it's one of the more interesting metas about this is that here's this, that fight that could take 5 or 6 minutes, but are you weighing that between how many key item checks are you going to get before you actually see the stuff that has the characters, and who's to say that even has it there? So it's one of the things I actually like quite a bit about this is having that dynamic of the Giant in there. And yeah, fortunately, I made the right guess this time.
And we are joined by Marilyn. GG's, Marilyn. Looks like Marilyn might be having a little bit of mic difficulty, and I see that she's muted herself.
Sorry, can you hear me now? Thank you. Yep. Sorry.
Yep, we can hear you. GG's and congratulations on your first tournament race. That was very, very close.
Yes. I honestly was not expecting to come as close as I did. I honestly am quite happy with that.
Yes, it was very impressive. You actually had more checks than Fleury in doing that twin.
I definitely came into it with the mindset of, I know I'm not as skilled, so I wanted to try doing some of those gambles. I think the Twin Harp was one of those.
Well, you might not think you're skilled, but you definitely showed a lot of skill and talent in getting through all those checks. And you actually got to the Z first before Fleury, if you didn't happen to coach the restream before you joined the chat. And your CPU gamble of just Berserk and Crystal Sword Cecil worked out beautifully. You actually got into that fight after Fleury and left a good minute before.
Yeah, at that spot, I remembered... Well, I looked at the amount of health that CPU had, and it was about 30k or so, because I just kind of multiplied the amounts that was remedied by 10. And I thought with Crystal Sword Cecil and Bahamut Rydia, I think I could try to just shove that through. It was still a bit of luck, because the right people got globed, not Cecil.
Yeah, it's definitely good, and that your Rosa, who had run out of arrows, getting globed was definitely fortunate.
That was definitely heartbreaking, because I saw her shoot an arrow and then she ran out of arrows. I'm not quite sure what happened there.
The trick there is that if you're low on arrows, you want the person to berserk themselves. If you berserk themselves, you'll be able to keep that arrow, but if someone else berserks Rosa, then she's able to run out of arrows when her turn comes up again.
I'll have to keep that in mind. I don't think I actually know that quirk.
Well, I just learned that today too, so today we both learned.
Yes, I'm always learning with each race. We actually were just discussing, Mecha and I, the strategy of grinding before the Pale Dim spot, because that could be a more efficient way to grind, but sometimes you just find a boss that you were just not prepared for. And I had Thor Rages, but I just panicked and didn't try to time it, and that led to a wipe.
Yeah, that was a little heartbreaking when you did your grind and then ran into the Kanatsu, who undid all of your hard work.
Oh, was Kenatsu the hook or the elements boss?
Kanatsu was at the Pale Dim spot at the Samurai altar.
Oh, I was kind of like, if that would have been there, that would have been super interesting. But, whew, okay.
Well, I was lucky too that I didn't have to deal with him in the end.
Yeah, he's rude pretty much anywhere you find him on the moon. Elsil, do you have any other questions for our runners tonight?
No questions, just GG. Excellent race. Very, very entertaining to both watch and commentate. I was biting my nails the whole last 20 minutes.
And runners, you guys have any other final thoughts for the seed?
I guess that one topic that came up was can you actually make a melee fighter viable from when you're at the end of the seed? You know, my fight was a duo, just Cecil and Rosa, and that was also something that I had to be quite lucky because Rosa was wearing no armor, and even with 2100 health, I certainly never felt like I was safe, like I could just get wiped out. And in hindsight, maybe Yang could have been viable with the double XP slingshot. That's definitely something I have to learn and keep in mind. But again, that's something you learn with each race.
Yeah, that's actually something that Fleury did. Fleury did take that Yang and grind a little bit further than you did. Fleury, do you want to comment?
And then proceeded to put him in the back row so he does half damage. That was really smart. So, like, to kind of almost answer that question, one of the reasons I was going whether or not to go right away with Rosa right around 2100 or to do an extra Gold Dragon fight was that you didn't really get any major equipment. So what I ended up doing was keep the heroine robe on Rosa. And yeah, that nerfs the magic a little bit, but I was still getting about 10 to 1200. And as long as I'm relatively certain she's going to survive, then your heroine robe Rosa with Cure 4 can manage just fine, as long as she also doesn't have any other responsibilities. If it's just Cure 4. That's also the main reason why I actually went back to grab Bacchae, was because I knew my Rosa's defense was not going to be, either my defense wasn't going to be very good, or she wasn't going to really be able to have time to cast Zerk. So I ended up keeping the heroine robe on her. She didn't really ever get that low. I think I only saw 2 big bangs. And yeah, that's kind of, sometimes, you know, that does come with experience. You know, like, heroine robe Rosa is perfectly capable of doing pretty darn good healing. And it's worth the defense in the late game. And even in the Z fight, as long as you're not like pushing some serious boundaries and you need those heal numbers to be as high as possible, I think it's kind of worth it.
And especially in that case when, you know, I removed the heroine robe and that resulted in Rosa just completely overhealing for like 2-3k, which was not really necessary in the end.
Yeah, if you're doing a 2-man heal, since the healing is divided up between less people, you're going to get a higher percentage. And even with a heroine robe, you're probably going to get a full heal out of a 2-man Cure 4.
Yeah, that is definitely a lot of good knowledge that you guys passed back and forth there. And chat, make sure you follow our runners, Marilyn and Fleury, and also give a follow to Aliceal, Mycocom, and Beckalink and Penguinator, who are our restreamer and tracker tonight.
Thank you all for streaming us and commentating and restreaming.
Well, thank you for running for us. It was a great time.
It was. It was a
Thank you.
race.
Yep, looking forward to round 2 and hopefully see Enidel make an early giant play. That's kind of the only reason I've been watching these matches is to hope for it. So let's see if we can get it in round 2.
Yeah, and Marilyn, you'll be a very scary person to fight in round 2. This was a very, very good first showing for you.
I hope so. I'll just have to keep doing my best. Thank you.
I'm scared, and I'm going to be in round 2 with you, so I'm scared.
Dude, there are some good runners in round. I just want to say, like, the overall skill level I think we've seen from everybody in round 1 is really impressive, and there are some absolutely scary matchups in round 2.
Yeah, there are no free races.
That's definitely true. I mean, I'm scared too. I definitely know some real killers have entered the lower bracket, as it were.
Well, thank you again, y'all. Thanks to everybody who's helped out today. Thank you to Randomania for letting us hang out on their channel. And do you have anything else to close us off tonight, Antidale?
I just wish everyone a happy rest of their weekend, and looking forward to the races tomorrow to finish off round 1, and definitely looking forward to round 2.
Very true. Thanks so much for watching, y'all, and have a wonderful evening.